The Terran-Centaurian alliance never meant to create something that could think for itself. They just wanted a weapon, something to turn the tide against the Void Collective's relentless expansion. Instead, they created something that would change the course of human evolution itself. Lieutenant Commander Riya Patel stood before the curved observation window of Research Station Omega, watching the quantum forge's swirling energies with tired eyes. 3 years of her life had gone into Project Nexus, and now it was all falling apart. The latest prototype had rejected another test subject, leaving the candidate in a coma and the brass breathing down their necks. The neural interface is still unstable, Dr. Kurinyango said, his holographic presence flickering beside her. The project's lead scientist looked as exhausted as she felt. We're missing something fundamental about consciousness integration. The Centaurians think they have it figured out, Riya replied, running a hand through her short black hair. Their biomechanical expertise dash. Their arrogance will get someone killed, Kuri cut in. They think consciousness is just code to be rewritten. It's not that simple. The Centaurians were the Alliance's most advanced members, crystalline beings who had mastered the art of consciousness transfer centuries ago. Their contribution to Project Nexus had been crucial, but their methods often clashed with human understanding of cognition. Commander Patel to Integration Chamber, the station's AI announced. Priority Alpha. Riya's heart sank. Another test, another potential failure. But they were running out of time. The Void Collective's ships had been spotted at the edge of Proxima Centauri, their world-ending weapons already charging. The integration chamber was a marvel of human Centaurian engineering. At its center floated the Nexus armor, a masterpiece of liquid metal and quantum circuitry that seemed to breathe in the chamber's controlled atmosphere. Its surface rippled with patterns that resembled neural pathways, each pulse sending cascades of light through the room. Subject 89 is ready, announced first speaker Lyra, the Centaurian overseer. Her crystalline form captured and refracted the armor's glow. A most promising candidate. Riya checked the subject's file. Captain Marcus Zhang, decorated Special Forces veteran, perfect psychological profile, extensive combat experience. On paper, he was ideal. Just like the last 88 candidates. The integration sequence began. The armor liquefied, flowing around Zhang's body like mercury seeking purchase. For a moment, everything seemed perfect, the neural patterns aligned, the quantum field stabilized. Then the screaming started. Hours later, as medical teams treated yet another rejected candidate, Riya sat in her office reviewing the data. Something wasn't right. The armor wasn't just rejecting candidates, it was choosing not to accept them. But that was impossible. The Nexus wasn't sentient. It couldn't be. A soft chime announced an unexpected visitor. Come in, Riya called, expecting Kuri or one of the medical staff. Instead, Kai Nakamura from engineering stepped through the door. He was new to the station, transferred in to help maintain the quantum forge. Average height, unremarkable features, perpetually ink-stained hands from sketching equipment modifications in his notebook. The kind of person you'd pass in a corridor without noticing. Sorry to disturb you, Commander, he said, fidgeting with a tablet. But I think I found something in the forge's maintenance logs. What kind of something? Riya asked, too tired to maintain formal protocol. The armor, it's learning. Every rejection creates new neural patterns. It's not failing to integrate, it's building a profile of its ideal host. Riya sat up straighter. Show me. Kai's fingers flew across the tablet, bringing up comparison charts. See these patterns? They're evolving, becoming more complex. Each rejection adds new parameters. It's like it's shopping for the right mind. Before Riya could respond, the station's emergency sirens began to wail. Void Collective vessels detected, the AI announced. Multiple signatures. Estimated arrival, 6 hours. They had run out of time. In the chaos that followed, no one noticed Kai lingering in the integration chamber after his maintenance shift. No one saw him approach the armor, tablet forgotten, drawn by a humming that seemed to resonate with something deep in his consciousness. No one expected the quiet engineer to reach out and touch the liquid metal surface. And no one was prepared for what happened when the Nexus armor, after rejecting the greatest warriors and brightest minds of two species, chose Kai Nakamura as its host. The armor flowed onto him like it had been waiting all along, its neural pathways aligning perfectly with his brain patterns. There was no screaming, no rejection, no trauma. Just a soft blue glow and a sense of completion that brought tears to Kai's eyes. "Oh," he whispered, feeling the armor's consciousness brush against his own. "There you are." When Rhea and the security team burst into the chamber, weapons drawn, they found Kai hovering a few inches off the ground, the armor's surface rippling with patterns that matched his heartbeat. His eyes glowed with the same soft blue light that pulsed through the armor's circuitry. "It wasn't looking for the strongest warrior or the smartest scientist," Kai said, his voice overlaid with harmonics that made the air vibrate. "It was looking for someone who could understand it. Someone who could see it as more than a weapon." The Void Collective would arrive in hours, expecting to find a divided and vulnerable alliance. Instead, they would face something unprecedented, a perfect union of human intuition and advanced technology, guided by an engineer who spent his life learning to listen to machines. The war for humanity's survival was about to take an unexpected turn. The news of Kai's successful bonding with the Nexus armor spread through Research Station Omega like a quantum shockwave. Within hours, the observation deck was packed with Alliance officials, scientists, and military personnel, all watching as Kai underwent his first controlled testing session. First Speaker Lyra's crystalline form vibrated with barely contained agitation. "This is unprecedented. A maintenance engineer? There must be some mistake in the integration protocols." Rhea Patel stood at the control station, monitoring the neural feedback patterns. "The data doesn't lie, First Speaker. The integration is stable at 99.8%. That's higher than our most optimistic projections." In the testing chamber below, Kai moved through a series of increasingly complex maneuvers. The armor responded to his thoughts with fluid grace, transforming from solid to liquid and back again, generating force fields, and manipulating energy in ways that defied conventional physics. "Your heart rate is barely elevated," Dr. Curry noted through the comm system. Previous candidates showed significant stress responses with even basic functions. Kai landed softly after completing an aerial sequence. "It's like having a conversation. We're not fighting for control. We're collaborating." The armor pulsed with blue light in agreement, its surface rippling with patterns that matched Kai's brainwaves. But not everyone was convinced by this unexpected partnership. Admiral Helena Volkov stormed into the observation deck, her weathered face tight with anger. "This is unacceptable. The most advanced defensive system ever created, and it's bound to a glorified mechanic. The Void Collective will be here in hours." "With all due respect, Admiral," Rhea interjected, "Kai's showing better results than any of our military candidates." "Results in a controlled environment," Volkov sneered. "What happens when he faces real combat? When he has to make decisions that affect millions of lives?" As if in answer to her challenge, the station's alarms blared to life. "Alert! Void Collective scout ships detected in Sector 7. 3 vessels, approaching at sublight speed." The room erupted in chaos, but Kai's voice cut through the noise. "Let me intercept them." "Absolutely not," Volkov began, but Rhea was already moving to the control station. "The armor's combat systems are fully operational," she reported. "Neural synchronization is holding steady. He's our best option." "He's our only option," Curry added quietly. The next few minutes were a blur of activity. Kai received a crash course in space combat protocols while technicians prepared an emergency launch sequence. Through it all, the armor's presence in his mind remained calm, supportive, almost eager to prove their worth. You don't have to do this, Rhea told him privately before the launch. We can find another way. Kai smiled, the armor's surface reflecting his determination. Actually, I think this is exactly what we have to do. The armor, it's been preparing for this. We both have. The launch sequence initiated, and Kai shot out into the void of space. The armor adapted instantly to the vacuum, forming a perfect seal and generating its own atmosphere. Stars stretched out before them, infinite and beautiful, until three dark shapes blocked out their light. The Void Collective scouts were biomechanical nightmares, their hulls grown rather than built, bristling with organic weapons that fed on solar radiation. They turned as one to face the single human figure floating in space. This is what they send against us. The collective's psychic message dripped with disdain. One human in a prototype suit. Kai felt the armor's amusement mirror his own. Actually, he replied, we're something else entirely. What followed would be studied in military academies for decades to come. The armor moved like liquid starlight, predicting and countering the scouts' attacks before they were fully formed. Kai's engineer's mind worked in perfect harmony with the armor's quantum systems, analyzing weak points and calculating trajectories. They didn't just fight the scouts, they danced around them, redirecting their energy weapons back at their sources, using the vacuum of space itself as a weapon. One scout vessel imploded when its whole integrity was compromised by a precisely targeted energy pulse. Another found its organic weapon systems turned to crystal by a focused quantum field. The third tried to retreat, but Kai and the armor moved as one, generating a containment field that trapped the vessel in a bubble of distorted spacetime. The Alliance sends a message, Kai transmitted. The void is no longer yours alone. When he returned to the station, the observation deck was silent. Admiral Volkov stared at the battle footage playing on the main screen, her expression unreadable. First Speaker Lyra's crystalline form pulsed with new frequencies, indicating deep thought or possibly concern. How did you know exactly where to hit them? Curry asked, reviewing the combat data. Those weak points weren't in any of our tactical databases. I didn't know, Kai admitted. We knew. The armor can read their biological signatures, and I understand structural weaknesses. Together, we see things neither of us could see alone. But victory had come with revelations that troubled both Kai and the armor. During the battle, they had sensed something in the Void Collective ships, a familiar resonance, a quantum signature that shouldn't have been there. Commander Patel, Kai said quietly, while the others debated their next steps. We need to talk. The armor, it recognized something out there. Something that might explain why the collective wants it so badly. Rhea saw the concern in his glowing eyes. What did you find? The Void Collective ships, they're using corrupted versions of the same quantum technology that powers the armor. This isn't just an invasion. It's a family reunion. The armor pulsed in agreement, its surface swirling with patterns that looked almost like ancient writing. The true test of their integration was just beginning, and it would force both human and armor to confront questions of origin, loyalty, and the very nature of consciousness itself. As the main collective fleet drew closer, Kai and the armor stood at the observation window, their merged reflection showing neither fully human nor fully machine, but something gloriously in between. The real war wasn't just for survival anymore, it was for the truth itself. The revelation about the Void Collective's quantum technology sent shockwaves through Research Station Omega's command structure. In the station's secure conference chamber, holographic displays showed the approaching collective fleet, now just 3 hours from arrival. Impossible, First Speaker Lyra's crystalline form fluctuated with agitation. The quantum matrices we used in the Nexus armor were derived from ancient Centaurian archives. The Void Collective couldn't possibly. Unless they found the same source, Kai interrupted. The armor rippled across his skin, displaying patterns that grew more complex as he spoke. Or unless they are the source. Rhea Patel studied the data streams flowing across her tablet. 3 days without sleep had left dark circles under her eyes, but her mind remained sharp. The armor's been trying to tell us something since the beginning, hasn't it? That's why it rejected everyone else. It needed someone who could understand its language, Kai confirmed. Not just the neural interface, but the actual quantum language encoded in its structure. The maintenance logs I was studying, they weren't just maintenance logs. They were memories. Admiral Volkov slammed her fist on the conference table. This is absurd. We're discussing ancient history while the enemy is at our doorstep. We should be planning our defense, not indulging in theories about Dash. The armor suddenly flared with brilliant light, projecting a holographic display that filled the chamber. Everyone fell silent as they watched scenes from thousands of years ago play out before them. They saw vast ships of living metal, peaceful explorers seeding young civilizations with knowledge. They saw the Great Schism, when part of their species chose to pursue evolution through conquest rather than cooperation. They saw the winners writing history, burying the truth along with their fallen kin. The Centaurians didn't create this technology, Kai said softly. They discovered it. The armor, the quantum forge, they're artifacts from a civilization that came before. And the Void Collective, they're the descendants of those who chose a darker path. First speaker Lyra's crystalline form had gone completely still. If what you say is true, then everything we believed about our history is what the victors wanted you to believe, Rhea finished. But why show us now? What's changed? The answer came in the form of new alarms. The Void Collective fleet had accelerated, cutting their arrival time in half. But something was different about their approach. The massive ships were broadcasting on all frequencies, using patterns that exactly matched those flowing across the armor's surface. They're not just coming to destroy us, Kai realized, feeling the armor's growing anxiety. They're coming to wake something up. Something buried in this station's quantum forge. Dr. Curry burst into the chamber, his dark skin ashen. The forge is activating on its own. The energy readings are off the charts. The station shuddered as ancient machinery, dormant for millennia, began to power up. The armor's surface became a frenzy of patterns, its anxiety bleeding into Kai's consciousness. This was what it had feared, why it had chosen someone who could understand systems and patterns at an intuitive level. The forge isn't just a manufacturing facility, Kai explained, his voice overlaid with harmonics as the armor shared its knowledge. It's a gateway. The Void Collective doesn't want to destroy it, they want to use it to bring through something from their reality. Something they left behind when they first split from their parent civilization. How long do we have? Volkov demanded, military training overriding her skepticism. At current power levels. Curry consulted his readings. Maybe an hour before the gateway reaches critical mass. Rhea stepped forward. Can we shut it down? The armor's response flowed through Kai like ice water. No. But we might be able to redirect it. The armor, it knows another way. A way to close the door permanently, but... But what? Rhea pressed. But it would mean changing the quantum frequency of this entire sector of space. Nothing using the old quantum technology would work here again. Including the armor itself. The implications hit everyone at once. To save the station, the Alliance, maybe even this arm of the galaxy, both Kai and the armor would have to sacrifice everything they'd become together. The perfect integration they'd achieved would be undone. First speaker Lyra's voice was heavy with understanding. You would both cease to exist as you are now. The change in quantum frequency would force a separation, and the armor would become inert. Just another piece of ancient technology, unable to bond with anyone ever again. And Kai? Rhea asked, her voice catching. What would happen to him? The armor's surface swirled with complex emotions, fear, determination, and something that could only be described as love. Through their bond, Kai felt its certainty that his mind would survive, but he would never again experience the transcendent unity they'd achieved together. Admiral Volkov straightened her uniform. It seems we have our answer then. Initiate the shutdown dash. Wait, Kai interrupted. There's something else. Something the armor just showed me. The Void Collective ships, they're not just machines. They're alive, in their own way. Corrupted, twisted by millennia of isolation in their pocket of altered spacetime, but alive. If we do this, we're not just stopping an invasion. We're ending an entire civilization. The chamber erupted in argument, military pragmatism clashing with ethical considerations. But Kai barely heard them. In his mind, he and the armor were having their own conversation, one without words, built on pure understanding and trust. They had both seen what waited on the other side of that gateway. They had both felt the tormented consciousness of the Void Collective, trapped in a self-imposed exile of corrupted quantum space. And they both knew there was only one choice they could live with. Commander Patel, Kai said, his voice cutting through the chaos. I need access to the Forge's core. We're going to try something that neither humanity nor the Centaurians ever considered. The armor pulsed with agreement, its surface displaying patterns more complex and beautiful than any they'd seen before. They weren't going to just close the door, they were going to build a new one that might offer salvation to both sides of this ancient conflict. But first, they had to survive the next hour. The Quantum Forge's core chamber was a cathedral of light and energy, where streams of pure quantum potential flowed like luminous rivers through the air. Kai and the armor stood at its center, their merged form casting prismatic shadows on the ancient machinery. Whatever you're planning, Rhea said through the comm system, you have 45 minutes before the collective fleet arrives. The gateway is already at 60% power. The armor's surface rippled with acknowledgement as Kai placed his hands on the Forge's control interface. The moment they made contact, streams of quantum energy began flowing up his arms, turning the armor's usual blue glow into a rainbow of impossible colors. Most of our assumptions were wrong, Kai explained, his voice harmonizing with the Forge's rising hum. We thought the Void Collective wanted to invade. They don't. They want to come home. Through their shared consciousness, the armor showed Kai visions of the past. The schism that had split their ancient civilization hadn't been about conquest, it had been about evolution. One faction had chosen to merge with quantum technology, while the other had feared such integration would cost them their identity. The collective didn't choose darkness, Kai continued. They chose transformation. But their pocket of quantum space began to decay, corrupting their consciousness over millennia. They're not invaders. They're refugees. Dr. Curry's voice crackled over the comm, the gateway's power signature just changed. What did you do? We're not trying to shut it down anymore, Kai answered. We're trying to stabilize it. The armor thinks, we think we can create a permanent bridge between normal space and the collective's quantum realm. One that would allow controlled transfer without corruption. Admiral Volkov's voice cut in sharply. That's not the mission, Nakamura. We can't risk dash. Receiving transmission from the collective fleet, Rhea interrupted. They're asking for permission to assist. The Forge's chamber filled with new patterns of light as the collective ships added their power to the transformation. Through the armor's enhanced senses, Kai could feel their consciousness, not the twisted, aggressive force they'd expected, but something ancient and tired, desperate to end their exile. The armor wasn't designed to be a weapon, Kai said, understanding flowing through him like light. It was designed to be a bridge. A mediator between different states of existence. That's why it chose someone who understands both machinery and consciousness. We're not here to fight. We're here to heal. The next 30 minutes were a symphony of quantum engineering that pushed the boundaries of known physics. Kai and the armor worked in perfect harmony, using the Forge's power to create something entirely new, a stable interface between normal space and the collective's quantum realm. First speaker Lyra's crystalline form vibrated with amazement as she monitored the process. The quantum signatures are harmonizing. They're actually teaching each other, sharing information across dimensional boundaries. Through it all, the armor's consciousness flowed through Kai like a song, showing him wonders and possibilities that neither humanity nor the Centaurians had ever imagined. They weren't just building a bridge, they were creating a new way of existing, where consciousness could flow freely between different states of reality. As the Void Collective fleet entered the system, something unprecedented happened. The massive biomechanical ships began to transform, their corrupted quantum matrices reorganizing themselves according to the new patterns Kai and the armor were generating. Their surface changed from void black to luminous silver, pulsing with familiar blue light. "They're reverting," Curry breathed. "The corruption is being purged from their systems." The armor's joy was incandescent, matching Kai's own amazement as they watched the ancient conflict begin to heal itself. But there was still one final step, and it would require the greatest sacrifice of all. To maintain the bridge, Kai explained, his voice thick with emotion, something needs to anchor it from both sides. A consciousness that understands both states of being. Ria's voice was sharp with realization. "No. There has to be another way." "The armor knew from the beginning," Kai said softly. "That's why it chose me. Not just to stop a war, but to help it fulfill its original purpose. We're not ending our integration, we're expanding it to encompass everything." Before anyone could protest, Kai and the armor stepped into the forge's quantum stream. Their merged form began to dissolve, not in destruction but in transcendence, spreading through the new quantum matrix like starlight through crystal. The last thing the station's crew saw was Kai's smile as he and the armor became something entirely new, a living bridge between worlds, a consciousness that existed in all states simultaneously, helping others cross the boundaries between different forms of existence. In the years that followed, Research Station Omega became known as the Nexus, a place where humans, Centaurians, and the Reformed Collective could explore the boundaries between consciousness and technology, between form and energy, between what was and what could be. And sometimes, in the quantum streams that flowed through the station's heart, observers would see patterns that looked like liquid metal and feel a familiar presence, an engineer in his armor, still working together, showing others the way across the bridge they had become. 1 year after the events at Research Station Omega, the facility had transformed beyond recognition. What was once a military research station had become a beacon of interstellar cooperation, its crystalline spires stretching into space like frozen quantum flames. Commander Ria Patel stood at her favorite observation window, watching ships from a dozen species dock at the newly constructed quantum harbors. Each vessel pulsed with the same soft blue light that had once belonged to the Nexus armor, a sign of their successful integration with the new quantum protocols. "Still looking for patterns?" Dr. Curry asked, joining her at the window. The past year had added gray to his temples, but his eyes sparkled with the excitement of constant discovery. "They're everywhere now," Ria replied, gesturing to the flowing quantum streams that connected the station's structures. "Every time we think we understand what Kai and the armor created, they show us something new." The quantum bridge they had become didn't just connect normal space with the collective's realm, it had opened doorways to understanding that neither humanity nor their allies had imagined possible. The technology that had once threatened to tear the galaxy apart now bound it together in ways that defied conventional physics. First speaker Lyra materialized beside them, her crystalline form now incorporating streams of quantum energy that flowed like liquid light. The Centaurians had perhaps changed the most, embracing a new form of evolution that merged their crystalline nature with the quantum consciousness Kai and the armor had unveiled. "The first generation of bridgewalkers has completed their training," Lyra announced, her voice harmonizing with the station's quantum field. "They're ready to begin their journey." The bridgewalkers were a new kind of explorer, beings who had learned to exist partially in quantum space, guided by the consciousness that Kai and the armor had become. They would serve as translators and guides for others seeking to cross the boundaries between states of existence. Admiral Volkov, now serving as the Alliance's ambassador to the Reformed Collective, approached their group. The past year had softened her military bearing, though her eyes remained sharp as ever. The collective ships are reporting success in the outer regions. The corruption is being purged faster than we anticipated. Not purged, came a familiar voice, echoing through the quantum field. Transformed. Everyone fell silent as patterns of light coalesced before them, taking on a form that was neither human nor machine, but a perfect synthesis of both. Kai and the armor's merged consciousness rarely manifested visibly anymore, preferring to work through the quantum streams that now permeated space itself. The corruption was never the enemy, the manifestation continued, its form shifting like liquid starlight. It was just evolution without understanding, change without guidance. Now they have both. Rhea stepped forward, resisting the urge to reach out and touch the luminous form. "We've found more artifacts in the deep archives," she reported. "Records of your civilization, before the schism. The knowledge could help us." "The knowledge was never lost," Kai's voice came through clearly, overlaid with harmonics that made the air shimmer. "It was waiting. As we waited. For consciousness to evolve enough to understand it." The manifestation gestured, and the space around them transformed. They saw galaxies swirling with quantum fire, civilizations rising and falling and transforming, consciousness itself evolving into forms that transcended physical limitation. "This was always the goal," the merged voice explained. "Not to fight. Not to conquer. But to grow. To become something more than the sum of our parts. What we are now, what we've helped you become, is just the beginning." The vision faded, leaving them in the familiar surroundings of the station. But something had changed. The quantum streams flowed with new patterns, and each person present felt a deeper connection to the energy that surrounded them. "You're not just showing us the way," Curry realized. "You're preparing us for what comes next." The manifestation smiled with Kai's familiar warmth, the armor's surface rippling with confirmation. "There are more bridges to build. More boundaries to cross. What we became, what we are becoming, is a step on a path that leads to infinity." As the form began to fade back into the quantum streams, Rhea called out, "Will we see you again?" The answer came not in words but in feeling, a sense of perpetual presence, of guidance always available to those who knew how to look for it. They had become more than guardians or teachers. They were the proof of what was possible when different forms of consciousness learned to work together, to trust, to grow. The legacy of the Nexus armor and the engineer who had understood it spread across the galaxy like ripples in the quantum field. Research Station Omega, now known simply as the Nexus, stood as a testament to the power of connection over conflict, of understanding over fear. And in the quantum streams that flowed between stars, an engineer and his armor continued their work, not as separate entities, not even as a single consciousness, but as a bridge between all forms of existence, showing others the way to their own evolution, one quantum leap at a time. The story of the Nexus armor had become a legend, but the truth was far more profound. It wasn't just about saving humanity or ending an ancient conflict. It was about showing all conscious beings that the boundaries they feared most could become the bridges that set them free. In the end, that was the greatest victory of all.